It ends with us. Actor and director Justin Baldoni has sued the New York Times for $250 million. He's claiming that they amplified Blake Lively's story and allegations against him without properly vetting her story, without verifying details, et cetera, et cetera. So Justin Baldoni and his company, Wayfarer LLC Studios, has now filed this suit against the New York Times, which is all over the news. So, friends, I want to really do a deep dive with you into Justin Baldoni's complaint. I also want to go into Blake Lively's complaint as well, because Blake has brought a lawsuit against Wayfarer LLC, which is Justin Baldoni's studios. She's alleging harassment. And because the studio, I guess, is her quote place of employment, she is suing Wayfarer Studios as well. And then there's also this third lawsuit that just came to light by Stephanie Jones, who is a public relations individual who's suing Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer and Abel, which is the PR individuals involved as well. So Jennifer Abel, Melissa Nathan, Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios. So we have a lot of ground to cover here. Let's start off with Justin Baldoni's complaint that he has filed against the New York Times. He's claiming he's owed $250 million in damages for the story that they published in regards to Blake Lively's allegations against him. So let's take a deep dive into this. Now, notably, Justin Baldoni has hired the same lawyer that Raquel Leviss has hired in the Vanderpump Rules litigation, Brian Friedman. He's very well sought after attorney in California. He has filed things on behalf of individuals in Bachelor Nation and other reality TV stars. Justin Baldoni has hired him as counsel, and they have filed this suit in the Superior Court of the state of California, Los Angeles County. And let's look at if you look at the front page of the complaint, you can see that he's filing for libel, false light, invasion of privacy. He's suing for fraud and breach of implied in fact contract. Now, you might be saying, well, what's a false light claim? Well, a false light, invasion of privacy claim is a tort claim. It's different from defamation, because defamation is if the story is true, if what the New York Times printed is in fact true factually, then he could not recover on a defamation claim, because truth is an absolute defense to a defamation claim. But with false light, even if the New York Times published something that was technically true, if it depicts him in a way that invades his privacy, or if it depicts him in a way that where the context is off, he can still bring a false light claim, saying that even though these are true, even though these facts are true, the New York Times has depicted me in a light that's unfavorable, the context is off, and therefore it's depicting me in a false light, and he can still recover under invasion of privacy. So that's an interesting twist here. So let's look at this complaint. I have the entire complaint that we're going to go through in detail. And guys, it has receipts in it. There's lots of text messages. There's lots of social media posts that he is setting forth as alleged proofs, that he's claiming that the New York Times did not properly vet Blake Lively's story, and it's causing him great harm. She's now suing him in his studio. He's all over the media. He's claiming this is harming him as an actor professionally and personally. So let's get into the crux of the complaint here that Justin has filed. So, of course, we set forth the parties. Wayfarer Studios LLC is Justin Baldoni's company. Justin Baldoni, Janie Heath, Steve Sarowitz, Melissa Nathan, who's the PR person. Her company is the Agency Group PR. Jennifer Abel, RWA Communications. So let's talk here about the factual allegations. Justin starts off by saying at 9:46 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, December 20th, 2024, New York Times reporter Megan Twohay requested plaintiffs' response to an imminent 4,000-word bombshell story concerning their alleged orchestration of a smear campaign targeting Blake Lively. purportedly in response to Lively's disclosure of concerns about the working environment on the set of It Ends With Us. The film's production company, Wayfarer, its principals, Baldoni and Heath, and its public relations representatives, Nathan and Abel, were asked to provide on-the-record comment and to notify the Times of any inaccuracies by noon Eastern Standard Time the next day, which was December 2021-2024, a mere 14 hours overnight. Plaintiffs' representatives promptly denied Lively's accusations as reported by the Times and criticized both Lively and the Times' reliance on, quote, cherry-picked and altered communications stripped of necessary content and deliberately spliced to mislead. So that's really important. They're alleging that the Times spliced information, that they did not provide full context. And if that is true, let's look at the crux of this complaint. But if that's true, then that actually. So, friends, let's go down into this complaint further. And it states that despite its claims to have reviewed these along with other documents, the Times relied almost entirely on Lively's unverified and self-serving narrative, lifting it nearly verbatim while disregarding an abundance of evidence that contradicted her claims and exposed her true motives. But the Times did not care. Given the breadth of the article and the coordinated, quote, drop, it is readily apparent that the Times had been quietly working in concert with Lively's team for weeks or months. The Times participated actively in the legal maneuvering at the heart of Lively's strategy. Notably, Lively chose not to file a lawsuit against Baldoni, Wayfarer, or any of the plaintiffs, a choice that spared her from the scrutiny of the discovery process, including answering questions under oath and producing her communications. This decision was no incident. First, her administrative complaint is, and let's talk about this, because Blake Lively, that's actually incorrect in a sense, because Blake Lively had to go through administrative process first. She had to file first with the California Civil Rights Department before she could bring a lawsuit. And that's actually common in a number of states and the systems that are set up. You have to go first when you're bringing an employment suit against your employer, which here, Justin Baldoni, as the owner of this production company, Studios, is actually her, quote, employer and stands in the shoes of an employer. She does have to file with the California Civil Rights Department. So I don't know that that's entirely accurate. I don't think that she was trying to evade the discovery process. And in fact, she has filed a lawsuit. Now, we're going to go through this as well. Blake Lively has filed against Wayfarer Studios, LLC. So let's get back to Justin Baldoni's complaint here. It goes on to state on the third page of his complaint that she's rife with blatant falsehoods and egregious misrepresentations that would have subjected her to dismissal if not sanctions. Second, pursuing formal legal action would have detailed her true objective and orchestrated campaign to rehabilitate her public interest. Because remember, the heart of Lively's complaint that she filed with the California Civil Rights Department that we did cover on our prior live stream is that Justin worked with PR. He worked with a PR, Melissa Nathan, to orchestrate a campaign against her. So moving on, Justin is claiming that Lively filed a request for a right to sue letter with the California Civil Rights Department, a procedural formality that does not require pleadings, remains confidential unless leaked as it was here, and crucially does not subject the complainant to discovery. While such a letter can provide a lawsuit, it is clear that litigation was never her ultimate goal. Her real intention was to weaponize the appearance of legitimacy conferred by a numbered legal document to launch salacious, headline-grabbing allegations and reshape her public persona at the expense of Justin Baldoni's. So then the complaint goes on to state that Lively found willing allies at the New York Times, which uncritically embraced her Civil Rights Department complaint as fact and disregarded the plaintiff's emphatic objections. Without even waiting for the response deadline of noon Eastern Standard Time on December 21st, 2024, the Times rushed to publish its inflammatory article, quote, "We can bury anyone inside a Hollywood smear machine," at 10:11 a.m., nearly 2 hours earlier than the deadline that they had given Justin Baldoni to correct any inaccuracies. This brazen disregard for journalistic integrity and fairness resulted in an article rife with inaccuracies, misrepresentations, and omissions. And if that's true, I think that is problematic for the New York Times, because they gave Justin Baldoni only 14 hours to go ahead and correct any inaccuracies and notify them of any inaccuracies. But according to Justin, they went ahead and just published this article that was rife with inaccuracies 2 hours before the deadline that they had given him to correct any errors. So then, in an era where public trust in media has reached a historic low and legacy outlets are increasingly criticized as biased and agenda-driven, the Times has chosen to double down on sensationalism and oversimplified narratives. Rather than striving for accuracy and balance, it has prioritized below, signaling over substantive reporting, further eroding its credibility and exacerbating the very mistrust it claims to combat. The article's central thesis, encapsulated in a defamatory headline designed to immediately mislead the reader, is that plaintiffs orchestrated a retaliatory public relations campaign against Lively for speaking out about sexual harassment, a premise that is categorically false and easily disproven. If the Times truly reviewed the thousands of private communications it claimed to have obtained, its reporters would have seen incontrovertible evidence that it was Lively, not the plaintiffs, who engaged in a calculated smear campaign. The complete communications demonstrate beyond question that the plaintiffs had no intention of, quote, destroying or, quote, burying Lively through aggressive tactics. On the contrary, Baldoni consistently expressed his desire to avoid harming Lively and protect the film, but also recognized a legitimate need for public relations protection in light of Lively's false and damaging claims. So now we're going to get into some of the receipts that are part of Justin Baldoni's complaint. They have some pasted images here of things that they say are things that the New York Times would have taken note of had they been doing a thorough and proper investigation into this matter. So as you can see here, the first is a series of text messages from, one is Melissa Nathan. She's the public relations expert that was hired by Justin Baldoni. She says, "Good morning. Sharing with you a perfect example of why we don't use bots. I wouldn't even worry to think that they've hired a team, as A, nothing defined, and B, they hired an awful team, which I've sent to our guy to track and pull, so we have evidence of it. This below would answer everyone's question on what a bot team looks like when every single comment suddenly skews in her favor in a nonsensical way. At least sprinkle them in. She needs to fire her bot team." So they're basically, Melissa Nathan, the PR expert, is basically accusing Blake Lively of having retained a PR firm that uses bot spamming on comments to spam comments that are only favorable and skewed towards Blake Lively. So next, Justin says, "How can we say somehow that we are not doing any of this? It looks like we are trying to take her down." Melissa says, "No, it doesn't. They are doing all of this themselves, and it's really obvious. This is bots." So then Justin says, "Okay, please monitor things. I'm more worried about what is that we are planting these stories, which is not true, obviously." And then Jen Abel, who says, chiming in here, "The people saying that there are bots and this is a PR play on your side is a minority voice compared to the thousands and thousands who are calling it what it is and reacting to Blake's own actions and interviews. We never want the action of the minority to dictate what we do on our end. We have to always look at the big picture, which is still enormously on your side. But I do see a want and need from fans to move on. People are now commenting that they are bored with the many articles still coming out about this drama. When we move on, they do too. So we need to find ways to keep elevating not just the domestic violence reaction, but also the other things in your life, like family, being back home, and Wayfarer. That's not tone deaf, in my opinion, but sends the message that you are focusing on what really matters. And that's what will help with the Blake narrative, too. My point of view. So these are some examples of text messages between Justin Baldoni and his PR team. And the next part of his complaint then goes on to have some text messages here. Justin Baldoni says, it ends with us. Sony chief praises Blake Lively for advancing the conversation around domestic violence. They messaged me 5 minutes before this went up. Exclusive, Blake Lively was really impatient on It Ends With Us set as drama rumors swirl. Tension was so obvious. And then Janie Heath, who's affiliated with Wayfarer Studios, Justin Baldoni's studio, said, so glad Blake was praised. Let her get a win. It would be nice to have a Sony executive praise Justin. And then they redacted some text, removed Jen Abel, do not use from the conversation, and added Jen Abel's new number to the conversation. So then Justin Baldoni's complaint goes on to state that he says, the article is predicated on Lively's California Civil Rights Department complaint, which references text exchanges between Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel, the PR people that Justin Baldoni was working with, as purported evidence that Melissa Nathan planted a negative story in the Daily Mail titled, Is Blake Lively Set to Be Canceled? Lively's portrayal is categorically false, misleading, and devoid of factual basis, yet knowingly endorsed by the Times, which claimed to have reviewed thousands of pages of text messages and emails. The quote smear campaign hinges on an August 16th text exchange in which Melissa Nathan allegedly shared a link to this article with Abel. The text exchange shows Abel responding, wow, followed by, you really outdid yourself with this one, to which Nathan allegedly replied, that's why you hired me, right? I'm the best. These messages constitute the entirety of the purported evidence underlying the allegation of a smear campaign orchestrated on behalf of Baldoni. So then it shows the actual text messages that Blake is relying on, where Melissa Nathan, who's the PR publicist, sent this article about Blake Lively being canceled. Is she going to be canceled? And then Jennifer Abel, who's also another PR specialist, said, wow, you really outdid yourself with this one. And these do look incriminating when read in isolation, because Melissa Nathan responds, that's why you hired me, right? I'm the best. So really, this is the crux. Justin is saying this is the crux of Blake Lively's complaint. This is the entirety of what she says is evidence against me, having been involved here. So then Baldoni's complaint goes on to state, the Times, however, was aware that these text messages were unscrupulously altered and selectively titled, enabling both Lively and her teams and the Times to propagate a false smear campaign narrative designed to destroy the plaintiffs, Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios. So he's saying, hey, look, it's actually Blake Lively who's engaged in a smear campaign. So we've got a lot of back and forth allegations, friends. A lot of back and forth allegations between these parties. And then the complaint states specifically in the immediately preceding text exchange on August 16th, Nathan forwarded a screenshot of a message from a reporter informing her for the first time of the Daily Mail article. In response, Nathan wrote, quote, damn, this is not fair because it's also not me. followed by, quote, everything now looks like it's me, conclusively refuting her involvement in the creation or dissemination of the article. So they're saying that these text messages where she's saying, oh man, it looks like it's me, but it wasn't me, they're claiming that this exonerates Melissa Nathan. But friends, let's think about this logically. Let's take a moment to think about this logically. These text messages could have been self-serving text messages that Melissa Nathan typed up and wrote because she knew that the shit was going to hit the fan. I think, she could have suspected that, she's going to be accused of this, and she wants to put some self-serving text messages out there. So next, and again, friends, like I said, we don't take sides on this channel. We don't know what the truth is. We don't have the full extent of the story. So we are here to give legal commentary on what these individual parties are saying against one another. And we don't express any opinion right now as to the guilt or innocence of either party because we do not have a jury verdict or a court determination at this time. So then Justin Baldoni's complaint goes on to state further evidence of the Times' complicity with Blake arises from its apparent endorsement of the criminal alteration of these text messages by Lively. After Melissa Nathan forwarded a screenshot of the article link, Abel responded with, you really outdid yourself with this piece, with an upside down emoji, an upside down smiley face. Adding an upside down smiley face to indicate the sarcastic nature of her message. And I've heard people calling this the $250 million emoji, because what do we attribute to the emoji? Guys, let me know in the comments, what do you think that upside down smiley face emoji meant? Does an upside down smiley face emoji really mean that someone's being sarcastic? Let me know, because I haven't heard that before. And subscribe to the channel for daily live streams on the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni drama. So these are the text messages that they're showing. They have the upside down emoji. They're claiming that this is all this misunderstanding, that it was a sarcastic comment. And then Justin Baldoni goes on to allege in her California Civil Rights Department complaint, Blake Lively deliberately excluded not only the preceding screenshot of the text exchange that disproves Melissa Nathan's involvement in the story, but they also did not include the upside down smiley face emoji, which fundamentally alters the sarcastic tone of Abel's message and misleads the reader into interpreting her response as being serious. So guys, it's all going to come down to this upside down emoji now, isn't it? So then Justin Baldoni's complaint goes on to state, this omitted context is critical as it demonstrates that each subsequent message in the exchange was similarly intended as sarcasm, including Melissa Nathan's statement, quote, that's why you hired me, right? I'm the best. Further review of the text message exchange, also excluded from both Blake Lively's California Civil Rights Department complaint and the New York Times article, unequivocally shows that Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan, the PR people that were working with Justin Baldoni, were engaging in a sarcastic and joking manner, as evidenced by the use of the ha-ha tap back reaction. When read in full, the exchange reveals that Nathan and Abel were engaging in facetious juvenile banter, not conspiring against Lively. Well, then that's a message to us all, folks. Don't engage in sarcastic text messages because they could be used against you, friends. So then Justin's complaint goes on to state, the Times relied on Lively's California Civil Rights Department complaint and based solely on this exchange, intentionally duped readers into believing that Baldoni had orchestrated a smear campaign, purportedly using Nathan and Abel as his accomplices. Indeed, the Times, like Lively, misrepresented these communications to support its salacious and unfounded smear campaign narrative. This calculated distortion underscores the article's lack of credibility and its reliance on sensationalism over substantive truth. Any negative press about Lively was unequivocally a consequence of her own actions. Even the Times itself acknowledged Lively's public missteps in an August 17th, 2024 article titled, "It Ends With Us, the Press Tour Drama Explained." In it, Times reporter Shavana Gonzalez observed, Lively's promotion of the movie has included a push for her new hair care line, discussion of the clothes in the movie, and response to questions about abuse, which have been criticized as shallow and tone deaf. Baldoni, by contrast, has emphasized the importance of raising awareness of domestic violence and providing resources for those in similar situations. So he's pointing out, hey, look, the Times, a different reporter at the Times, has said very favorable things about me in a prior article. So then next, Justin Baldoni has more receipts here. He attaches some additional messages. There was an article that says Blake Lively's a little bump taunt left like a bullet, where a reporter says Blake Lively's little bump taunt left like a bullet. And then the response was laughing my ass off. We in CV her too. Let me find. Oh my gosh. That's These text messages are rather vulgar. And it says, when laughing out loud, also, what the F, why am I in this too? You're a starlet. F this week. How was the stunt? So then Justin Baldoni goes on to explain these text messages. And he states further in his complaint that Lively's marketing efforts, which including encouraging audience to, quote, grab your friends, wear your florals, while promoting her hair care and alcohol brands, were widely criticized as insensitive, because this movie was about domestic violence, a very serious topic. So then Justin's complaint goes on to state, this was particularly glaring given the World Health Organization statistics showing that 55% of domestic violence incidents involve alcohol. Her actions naturally triggered organic public criticism and unleashed a cycle of negative coverage, including, as is common in the digital age, the resurfacing of old, unflattering content. So then these exchanges say, we didn't tell Jed to go after the idea that her promo was inappropriate. That happened organically because people saw the actual movie and were like, wait, this is a movie about domestic violence that they wore florals to. Zoe sent me this on Saturday and goes, quote, this is a crazy way to market this movie. And then, so I mean, listen, and then they said, like, come on, we had nothing to do with that. So they basically, Justin is pointing out that the PR people were saying that a lot of this bad press against Lively was due to her own actions and how she responded when she was promoting the movie. Now, Blake did address this in the California Civil Rights Department complaint that we covered on our prior live stream, and she claims that the marketing plan for the movie It Ends With Us that she was given said to keep things lighthearted, kind of promote this as a movie that you go with, with your girlfriends. So she's claiming that Justin Baldoni deviated from that marketing script in an effort to make it appear as though, she was doing something that was not savory. So Justin Baldoni's complaint then goes on to state at paragraph 14, far from being the product of a calculated smear campaign by Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios, the backlash against Blake Lively was the inevitable fallout of her own tone-deaf messaging and self-promotional tactics, amplified by her inability to read the room in addressing such a serious topic. So Justin Baldoni's text, this is not us, correct? Assuming that the guy we brought in would never do this. And then Melissa Nathan, his PR specialist, says, no, none of us would ever do this. Also, no one even pays any attention to this person past 2005. He's not relevant. He does not create a news headline. He does not get picked up. He is just now a troll. There is not one outlet that would cover anything that he said or take it seriously. I think as well, there is the struggle where it's kind of maybe even unbelievable the way that people are turning against her, but they are organically. It's organic. She's blown herself up by her own actions. They're talking about Blake Lively in these text messages. And Justin Baldoni is saying that this exonerates me because I was basically talking with my PR person to make sure that it wasn't them that were doing this against Blake. And then the PR person goes on to state, this just ran. Obviously, none of us knew about this either, but once media goes in, they go in. And the best thing that we can do right now is be quiet. Let's get through this week together. Let's just move on and back to regular planning with Instagram posts and thoughtful ideas and messages. The content creators are on fire, and Justin, she has handed it to them on a plate. Just concentrate on the success of the movie, your family, and your next project. I have this weird feeling that she's going to reach out to you for a conversation in the next couple of weeks, or he will. So they're talking about Blake Lively. They're talking about this person that they're calling a troll online who's spreading this story. And the next part of these receipts that Justin has attached go on to state Blake Lively fearing for her career, and it ends with us backlash. God, I'm so over this. I'm sure Leslie thinks that we placed this one as well. Yep, and same. Next, Justin Baldoni's complaint then goes on to state, and he attaches additional receipts. The article that the New York Times published also deliberately ignores that Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, of Vision PR, once backed by Harvey Weinstein, seeded stories critical of Baldoni, including that Baldoni was a sexual predator ahead of the film's release. Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, did so even while Melissa Nathan, which is Baldoni's PR person, attempted to cooperate in good faith. So then they have some alleged text messages where Leslie Sloan, Blake Lively's PR person, says, yes, please, as this info is all wrong. She didn't require script, runs nothing to do with this. She produced the film and got a cut. And then she said the whole cast doesn't like Justin. Nothing to do with Blake. And so they've underlined the parts that they feel is important. I'm telling you, she's a liar. So they are they are panicking as the whole cast hates him. So then James goes on to say, she said the whole cast hits Justin. That has nothing to do with Blake. And now she's saying that Blake was sexually assaulted. Why wouldn't she say anything about that then? She knows she's full of shit. She told me the whole issue was that everybody hates Justin. Nothing about Blake and Justin. She said it has nothing to do with Blake. BS. So guys, these are really interesting text messages. I'm interested to see how this all shakes out. And then they're attaching more receipts. And they've underlined the parts that they feel are important. These are messages again. Then they go on to state Brian Friedman, which is the lawyer for Justin Baldoni, who's filed this lawsuit, goes on to say in these text messages, thanks, Melissa. Brian Friedman, I really appreciate it, James. And then James, who's with the Daily Mail, says, Brian, it will be easier to send you the screen recording of our conversation, which I scroll through slowly in the conversation. You can see that Leslie bashes Melissa, tries to get me to say that Melissa was planting stories and bad-mouthing Blake. She also goes off calling Steph Jones a liar, and never once did she mention anything about the sexual harassment. Here is the screenshot recording. So remember, Leslie Sloan, when they say Leslie, that's Blake Lively's publicist. When they're talking about Melissa, that's Melissa Nathan, which is Justin Baldoni's public relations publicist. So then they say we talked for a while, and during the conversation, Leslie asked me who it is that Melissa reps, who is with Tag PR, what happened with that he'll take situation. She also told me that Melissa is not a real PR agency and that they don't have any good clients. She told me that she did not like Melissa on multiple occasions. She also told us to who does not work with us anymore. They had to redact the name. I guess it's maybe a celebrity name. She also asked about Steph Jones, who she was, what she did, where she works, who works with her. She had called her a liar too in the text messages. Also, she has a history of lying. This is a clear example. She gave me information on the story about and the real reason that he got off stage during a performance. She gave me the info. We printed the info. Didn't like it. So she comes back and says the following. And so on the next page, the text messages continue. And they're saying they had to redact the whole portion. It might deal with a confidential client. But then the text messages go on to state, James at the Daily Mail says many times she gives us information and then her client gets mad. And then she comes back and says that she never gave it to us and it's a lie. I had many conversations with her about Blake. And never once did she say anything about sexual assault. I had a three-way call with her and Melissa, and she never said anything. Many times she gives us information about her client. This is a duplicate. And then she says, I hope this helps in some way. If nothing else, it shows that she doesn't like Melissa, and she tried numerous times to get me to say that Melissa was planting stories or that Melissa was bad-mouthing Blake after I told her countless times it was not the case, that she kept going. I'll call you, boss. She's a piece of work. So basically, these are text messages that Justin Baldoni says prove that Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, has a history of giving information to the press, such as James from the Daily Mail, and then later, because Blake gets mad, Blake gets mad, so Leslie will say, no, I didn't give that story. That's a lie. So then we have more text messages that Justin Baldoni has included in his complaint against the New York Times. And these state as follows. They state, the TMZ person says, I figured. I got some video from May 17th of Blake and Justin on set in Hoboken. They are in an animated conversation, so I wanted to see if they want to give any background or context. Between us, the video isn't really great, mostly doing it because of all the speculation about the feud. It's not, and then Melissa Nathan, which is the PR specialist for Justin Baldoni, says, it's not even between us, laughing out loud. And then TMZ says, the people's story about Justin Baldoni was false about cast crew hating him. We are told that the cast crew find Justin to be a nice guy. Don't take as harsh of sides behind scenes as it's being reported. At this point, we're told it's being milked for publicity. Justin's over it. It really was creative difference between Blake and Justin, but wasn't nearly as bad as reported. Blake, huge ego, etc. is the reporting. So TMZ is claiming, well, it's just really Blake Lively's ego. And then Melissa Nathan, Justin Baldoni's PR person, says, I am in a hurricane in PR. TMZ says, OMG, are you okay? She says, yes, and I just ate a poke bowl. Why doesn't she keep her text messages professional? Why is she talking about this? Then TMZ says, I'd be so ill. She said, do you have sources? BL, Blake Lively's camp, keeps thinking it's us placing it. And she's claiming that, do you have sources? So let's go here on the next page. It gives the full text message image. It says, do you have sources? BL, Blake Lively's team, her camp keeps thinking it's us placing it, and we're doing F all. Yes, on production. They've had a producer working overtime and spoke to people. Okay. And then she says, yes, on production, spoke to people on production in post. Well, wait till I tell you the whole story, Melissa Nathan says. We are legit saying source says it's all Blake's ego. You have no idea. You think you do. You do not. In my whole career, I've never come across this situation. But why aren't people saying the real story if known? Can I call you back? So they obviously had some phone calls as well in regards to this. And they're trying to say that these text messages exonerate Justin and show that the PR people were talking and the press people, TMZ, were just talking about how it's Blake's ego. So now these are some good text messages because we've got some from Leslie Sloan, which is Blake Lively's PR publicist. Leslie Sloan allegedly says in these messages, "Good for you. I know you are friends with Melissa," meaning Melissa Nathan, Justin's PR person. "Yeah, we are," says James from the Daily Mail. And Leslie says, "I'm not paid to take people down. I'm honest." And then James at the Daily Mail says she hasn't done anything literally anti-Blake. Leslie Sloan says, "KK." James from the Daily Mail says she told me the same thing that she told you, which is she said that Blake's backlash is organic. Leslie Sloan, Blake Lively's publicist, says it's not. She did nothing but help get a movie, make tons of money. Justin makes tons. And then James of the Daily Mail says, she was kind of off promoting it as if it was Barbie. It's just based on the things that she said directly. And they're talking about how Blake was promoting her hair care line and promoting her alcohol brand when promoting this movie. So then we've got some more text messages. Jennifer Abel. Jennifer Abel is also a PR person that has worked with Justin Baldoni. She's named a lot in these complaints. Jennifer Abel says she forwards a statement for TMZ. And then they had to redact some pieces of it. They say, "Hello, I'm a reporter at TMZ." It was from Charlie Neff. "And I'm reaching out to get a statement regarding some information. We are being told there were at least 3 HR complaints filed against Justin Baldoni on the set of It Ends With Us. We wanted to see if the complaints were investigated and what the results were. Thank you." So then Justin Baldoni's complaint attaches some additional text messages, and they state as follows. The reporter says a source close to set says they don't know of an investigation, but there was an intervention. Quote, "We heard there were multiple HR complaints from crew and cast, starting with the first day of production. Wayfarer is the studio. It's unclear if Wayfarer Studio performed an investigation into the claims against themselves. Separately, we are aware there was an intervention with Justin Baldoni midway through production based on a pattern of inappropriate behavior by him towards cast and crew." So remember, in Blake Lively's California civil rights complaint, we went through that on this channel. There was a meeting on January 4th, 2024, where Justin Baldoni, Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, and their representatives sat down and they hashed out a list of things that Blake says that Justin Baldoni agreed to. That he agreed that there would not be any more inappropriate conduct, and there was a list of a number of different things that she says he agreed to allow her to be able to return to work and feel comfortable in the environment without feeling harassed. So that's what they're referring to here. My belief is that that's what they're referring to, because they're saying that there was an intervention. So then the tag team says off record, the only complaint which not confirmed if it was an official HR complaint was a guy up for a gig on the crew complained the younger guy who got it did so because of ageism. There was an investigation and found no wrongdoing. There are no other complaints, especially no other documented HR complaints. There was not an intervention on set or with members of the crew. This would be false to allude to. Blake and Ryan had Justin and his team over for a meeting where Blake expressed all the things she was upset about. This was not Justin versus the team behind the film. It was his team versus Blake and Ryan. More of a contentious meeting. The way it reads now reads as if it was a proper intervention with cast and crew, not true. Well, I don't see why that would matter. Why does it matter how they characterize it? Because the fact is that no one's denying that there was this January 4th, 2024 meeting between Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively on one side and Justin Baldoni and Janie Heath and Wayfarer Studios on the other, where Blake was raising complaints, and she did attach a document to her California Civil Rights Department complaint, which was a list of things that she says all of the parties agreed to, such as and they involved like making the set free of sexual harassment, no discussions of sexual preferences, because she was alleging that Justin had asked like if she and Ryan Reynolds orgasm at the same time, like so he was allegedly talking about his porn addiction. So there were a list of things that Blake Lively says got hammered out at that meeting. So listen, I don't know why they're quibbling in these text messages about whether or not it was a quote formal intervention. But anyway, moving on to the next page of the complaint, there's more text messages that were produced. And then a reporter says, TY, thank you. I'll keep you posted. What's the email for Wayfarer? I need to reach out to legal. And then on the next page, there's some highlighted text as well, where they say, Leslie Sloan, remember Leslie refers to Leslie Sloan, which is Blake Lively's PR person. Leslie says Melissa, referring to Melissa Nathan. And then they go on to state as follows. She says, happy to, I land in less than 2 hours. And then Melissa Nathan says, thank you, have a safe flight. Just also, I'm not doing one thing without speaking to you. I'm not answering one email about the situation. I've told everyone to not do one thing, plant, seed, even speak to one reporter, even on background. Now I am involved. There will be no shock surprises to you. And Leslie Sloan hearted her message and said, me either. Leslie Sloan said, tried you. Hi, I need to chat. And then Melissa Nathan said, hi, I want to get into a place I can call you. So basically, Justin is saying, hey, look, my PR person, Melissa Nathan, was being very cooperative with Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan. So the next part of his complaint goes on to state as follows, and it attaches more text messages. And Justin's complaint states, to assert that plaintiffs, Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios, orchestrated a premeditated smear campaign is to disregard objective evidence that unequivocally contradicts such claims. Even a cursory investigation by the Times would have exposed the baseless nature of Lively's allegations and the lack of factual support for her narrative. Most troubling, however, is the Times' deliberate omission of a critical player in this manufactured controversy, Stephanie Jones. Once Baldoni's and Wayfarer's trusted public relations representative, Jones not only had intimate access to the communications strategy and crisis management surrounding the film, but also played a pivotal role in leaking private communications cited in the article. Her betrayal, driven by a quid pro quo arrangement with Blake Lively, appears aimed at shielding herself while aligning with Lively to curry favor and secure future opportunities. And that's why, friends, I'm also going to be discussing the complaint that she filed, Stephanie Jones filed against Justin Baldoni and his PR team and also the Wayfarer Studios. But back to Justin Baldoni's complaint here, he attaches more communications that he says support his allegations. And when we look through them, we see Stephanie Jones, who is his prior PR person, who had confidential information about the strategies, and she allegedly leaked information to Blake Lively. Says, has been nice and fixed things for us in past. I can give her a call. That this is nothing. Burger. Stephanie Jones then gives a website and then to contact. And then they said, team, please ignore this. And then she says, let's word her for redacted name. She's been very nice in the past, so we'll get this fixed. And then says, hi, I'm a reporter for dailymail.com, and I'm currently working on a story surrounding the recent rumors that there was a feud between It Ends With Us co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. So then Justin Baldoni's complaint goes on to allege at paragraph 7, at the next paragraph, he says, the Times compounded its journalistic failures by uncritically advancing Lively's unsubstantiated claims of sexual harassment against Janie Heath and Justin Baldoni. For example, the article, based on Lively's California Civil Rights Department complaint, sensationally alleges that, quote, Mr. Heath had shown Lively a video of his naked wife, end quote, with Lively's California Civil Rights Department complaint even labeling the footage as, quote, pornography. This claim is patently absurd. The video in question was a non-pornographic recording of Heath's wife and baby during a home birth, a deeply personal one with no sexual overtone. To distort this benign event into an act of sexual misconduct is outrageous and emblematic of the lengths to which Lively and her collaborators are willing to go to defame Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios. And they attached a still image of the video referenced, and it is the birth, allegedly, of his wife and their baby. So they're saying, hey, look, this is a beautiful moment. This is not a pornographic scene. Well, what do you think, friends? I have a question. If you were given that image, if your employer or someone you worked with showed you that image, what would you feel? Do you feel that's appropriate? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for daily live streams on the Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively case. So then he goes on to state, in the Times' failure to scrutinize these claims or even provide a balanced account of the events further underscores its role in amplifying Lively's falsehoods while abandoning its responsibility to truth and accuracy. The video was shown to Lively as part of a creative discussion in preparation for a birthing scene in the film. So that's interesting, because there is a birthing scene in the film where Blake Lively is giving birth to the daughter, the character's daughter, right? So Heath informed Lively that his wife condoned his displaying the video. Any suggestion that Heath engaged in the exhibition of pornography or inappropriate content is false. Although, friends, to play it safe, I probably wouldn't have shown that video. But anyways, adding to the sexual harassment narrative is the article's parroted accusation that both men repeatedly entered her makeup trailer uninvited while she was undressed, including when she was breastfeeding. And then they go on to have more text messages. Justin's complaint states, what Blake Lively and the article failed to mention is that Lively invited Baldoni into her trailer while pumping to, quote, work out their lines. Do you believe that, friends? Do you believe that? I don't know about that, because I don't know. I mean, some women are very open about breastfeeding in public. Yes, that is a thing. But some women are pretty private about it. So I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And then these text messages go on to state, Blake, ugh, I'm so sorry to hear that you and baby are sick. I know it's literally the last thing you need. I right now on top of a tough week. I pray it comes and goes with mild symptoms, and more than anything that he is okay. If you feel up for it, I'm here absolutely anytime and would love to check in. I know this week was a lot, and I'm committed to make things run smoother across the board. And then Blake Lively allegedly wrote back, our mistake. Molly did get the new pages at 11 p.m. last night. She didn't realize that they were new, but new pages can always be sent to me as well, please. And then Blake Lively says, I'm just pumping in my trailer if you want to work out our lines. OMG. So they do have a text where they're alleging that she invited him. And then he says, copy, eating with crew, and we'll head that way. Blake says, take your time. Justin says, I'm here. I'll meet you in HMU. Blake Lively says, sorry, I'm just seeing this. Here is and then Justin Baldoni says, here's a shorter version of Christie's original. Are you upset? Lily doesn't answer. So then he's talking about the lines. Then have him whisper in their ear, etc., etc. So he said, so listen, this is really interesting. This would be an interesting omission if this turns out to be, accurate. That she invited him in. I guess their accounts about what happened once he got into the trailer could still differ, right? So then at paragraph 20 of the complaint, Justin Baldoni goes on to state, likewise, the allegation that Baldoni inappropriately described Lively's character's attire as sexy is exaggerated and misleading. The text exchanges between Baldoni and Lively show that Lively had insisted that her character's clothing be much sexier. When Baldoni later used the word sexy, he was just responding to her creative input, not objectifying her personally. Lively set the tone that Baldoni heeded during the creative process. Now, isn't that a lawyerly way for Brian Friedman, Justin Baldoni's lawyer, to craft that allegation? So let's look at the texts. Let's look what these receipts show. So we've got more text messages where Blake Lively says, just text Ange this also. We'll show you both ways, but Beanie is much sexier. It's the look. Field TV without, especially with a crop top in the snow. It justifies the rest of the skin. And also, as a girl, I would check out walking down the street because it washes the effort off the rest of the book, off the rest of the look. And then Justin Baldoni said, good morning. If you don't have time to listen with morning craziness, here is the text. Just want to make sure, okay, with throwing the jacket on from yesterday morning or putting it on I want to line up a shot and see if I can just use a piece of the shoulder for the establishing shot, the old cafe we didn't get yesterday. I might not need it, but I just want to crew. See you soon. And then Blake Lively said, it's okay, just her shoulder, no problem. If it's her body, the head, etc., then it should be me. I was wondering about not having that shot, but kept it to myself. And then Justin says, yeah, we ran out of time. I want to line it up with the shoulder. If it doesn't work, then when you're dressed, we'll figure it out. By the way, if you're ever wondering if we have a shot or need one, I don't ever feel it's overstepping if you bring it up to me. FYI, Brandon just landed. We're talking character. No one waiting. So they're talking. He's talking about Brandon, who played Atlas in the movie. Blake then says, mortified. They dropped me off at the flower shop. I was in the wrong spot. So Justin is saying, hey, look, we were only just talking about her creative input about the wardrobe. So then at paragraph 21 of his complaint, Justin says, also misleading, the New York Times article draws on Lively's assertion that Baldoni improvised unwanted kissing and discussed his sex life. However, both the Times and Lively intentionally exclude that Lively refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator to plan out the film's sex scenes. Baldoni, in turn, was forced to meet with the intimacy coordinator alone and relay any suggestions to Lively separately. Notwithstanding Baldoni's reluctance, he and Lively would later sketch out the scenes together, absent the intimacy coordinator. As part of those creative discussions, Baldoni and Lively sought to personalize and develop their characters, and in doing so, engaged in conversation about their individual experiences. The Times, taking Lively's California Civil Rights Department complaint as true, characterizes this discussion as an inappropriate attempt by Baldoni to talk about his sex life. It was not. More still, Baldoni consistently acted at the direction of the intimacy coordinator. These baseless accusations do not constitute sexual harassment. So this is interesting because in Blake's California Civil Rights Department complaint, she was saying that he asked her questions like, do you and your husband orgasm at the same time? When in reality, now this is interesting, in reality, not in reality, because we don't know what the truth is, but Justin is saying that this was that Blake refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator. Now, Blake is saying in her complaint that she was requiring an intimacy coordinator to be on set with them at all times. And that's one of the demands that she made in the meeting with Ryan Reynolds on January 4th, 2024. So there's two different conflicting sides of the story here. But honestly, friends, as an attorney, I would never advise Justin to, as you know, he is her employer. He's the director. He's in a position of power. The studios employ her. I would never have advised Justin that it was okay to do things off script without the intimacy coordinator present, especially of a sexual nature when there's sexual conversations, sexual scenes at issue. And also, he's basically admitting he's admitting that they did talk about their own sexual individualized experiences with each other. So that is an interesting admission. He's not denying that, but he's just claiming that it was not unwanted by Blake. So moving forward, let's look at the text messages that he attaches here. Justin Baldoni, it says, he's saying, just hired intimacy coordinator who I love. We'll set you up to meet FT with her next week for intro. And Blake says, I feel good. I can meet her when we start. Thank you, though. He said, just FYI, and then Justin Baldoni says, just FYI, just wanted to tell you about this. Seems like she doesn't want to meet intimacy coordinator until we start, which may mess up the workflow. But I can still meet with her, of course. And then the producer says, that's fine. If she doesn't want to meet with her, you'll just have to walk her through what you and blank are thinking. So those texts are not exactly what he was saying. She was just saying, I will meet with the intimacy coordinator once we start shooting. So that's not exact. So I think his complaint overstated what the text messages stated. So then on the next page of his complaint, at paragraph 22, Justin Baldoni goes on to state that despite its effort to craft a distorted narrative, the New York Times fails to address a glaring contradiction in Lively's Civil Rights Department complaint. After the execution of the Protections for Return to Production agreement in November of 2023, that's the list I was talking about, where there was a meeting. So she's claiming, so Lively herself acknowledges that the film was completed, marketed, and released safely and successfully. While Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath disagreed with Lively's rationale for requesting the document, many of its provisions were already standard practice. They chose to comply for the sake of the film and to ensure Lively's comfort. So they're claiming that this list that they allegedly agreed to, they say that wasn't any admission of guilt, that it was just that these are standard practices on film, so we're just going to go ahead and acquiesce her ego and agree to it. So crucially, Lively concedes that neither Baldoni nor Heath engaged in any harassing behavior following the agreement in November of 2023. Furthermore, she admits that her stated concerns were sufficiently addressed at that time. This admission directly undermines her allegations of retaliation and strips her claims of credibility. Without the fabricated smear campaign narrative propping up her Civil Rights Department complaint, Lively's retaliation claim collapses under its own contradictions, exposing it as yet another ploy to salvage her public image rather than pursue any legitimate grievance. The fact is that Lively embarked on a hostile takeover of the production, strong-arming Sony into blessing her with ultimate control. As they became increasingly frantic and unsettled by the usurpation of their roles, Baldoni remained resolute that they continued to take the high road and be proud of the beautiful baby they had all made together. Notwithstanding, Lively waged war on Baldoni, weaponizing innocuous interactions from May and June 2023, long before there was any tension between them, to vilify and discredit him. At the time, Baldoni and Lively had a solid working relationship, and Lively expressed no unease around him. Only after the writer's strike had ended and filming was set to resume did Lively express any concern about returning to set. In response, Wayfarer and Baldoni agreed to all of Lively's demands. So then the next part of the complaint has text messages again that that are between Justin Baldoni, where he says, "Just curious if you guys have packed at her cut and if anything has changed." The editor number 2 says, "I have just been told that we are not permitted to look." Ha, wow. When did that happen? As per Sony, this evening through. Wow, okay then. The editors and director isn't allowed to look at an actress cut. Got it. Well, here we go. We will keep taking the high road. So basically, that's because there were Blake Lively was saying that they were watching her sex scenes with Justin as like over and over again excessively. So then Justin's complaint goes on to state, paragraph 25, that to suggest, as the Times does, that plaintiffs engaged in dark acts to destroy Lively's reputation is to ignore that Lively had long-standing reputational challenges and that plaintiffs' public public relations efforts were rudimentary, above board, and entirely defensive. The Times willingly omits any meaningful discussion of the true source of tension between Lively and plaintiffs, which was Lively's brazen and calculated effort to expropriate the film. So the text messages say, like Melissa Nathan, which is Justin Baldoni's PR person, says, like, come on, we had nothing to do with that. This is crazy. She doesn't have a good reputation. All of this is organic stuff from real people making TikToks, not bots. So they're saying that the bad press that Blake Lively is getting is organic because of her own actions. And then Melissa Nathan says, exactly. If it was just comments, I'd be like, oops, but it's not, LOL. Blake Lively is slammed over how she styled the younger actress. And next, there's some more really interesting text messages on the next page. And these are between editor number 2 and Justin Baldoni again. Editor says, hey, just checking in. Hope you're hanging in there. We're going to get through this. Damn it. And Justin Baldoni says, thanks for checking in. I've sat with it, and I think the best path forward spiritually and what's best for the movie is that I suck it up and let her in. I've sent a message requesting that it start on the 18th, and then we would just let her in until she leaves, and then her cuts and updates throughout the process. I'll let you guys know what she says. Thanks for being awesome, Dream Team. We got you. I think that sounds like a very good plan on all fronts, says editor. So then he says, we made a beautiful baby together. The baby might not grow up tone exactly who we thought, but it's still beautiful. That's what I'm holding on to. Very proud of us. And then the editor says, wow, I can't say I'm shocked, because I was hoping that you were going to be able to not let this beat you down. And it sounds like you have achieved that. And yes, the movie was handed her. So it was so good that even if it's been screwed with, the base work will still shine through. The last I heard was that she was putting back a fair amount of our version. Just not sure what that entailed or to what extent. I guess you'll find out today. Hang in there, and we'll all catch up when the wounds are not quite so fresh. Sending love to you both. The Times' assertion that Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios orchestrated a campaign to tarnish Blake Lively's reputation blatantly disregards her bizarre behavior at the time and misrepresents plaintiff's actions, which were modest, transparent, and purely defensive. The article entirely sidesteps the real source of the conflict between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios. Lively's calculated and malicious attempt to seize control of the film. They misspelled malicious. When they're being paid big bucks like this, you shouldn't have misspellings in your pleadings. So next, Justin Baldoni attaches some additional support. Jen Abel, which is his PR person, says, hi, Jamie just filled me in about the book con. I know this is devastating. It's such a kick in the gut. It's pretty. It's pretty and childish. It's petty and childish at this point. I'm just making sure that you're okay. We will get through this. Eye on the prize. Her attending BookCon is a win for the film ultimately. And if she wants to drag her ASS to Texas, then let her. You can be home with your family, which is important. So then Justin Baldoni responds, she's kicked me out officially from the film now. She's finishing it all. I can't be involved. Music, sound, VFX, everything. I'll make it through somehow. Just need to feel it all. So basically, what Justin is saying is that Blake Lively, in order to agree to appear at BookCon, she said he can't come. And there was speculation about why Justin Baldoni was not doing press with the rest of the cast. So then Justin Baldoni's complaint says, notably absent from the Times narrative is Lively's insistence on obtaining editing privileges and demanding her own version of the film, a departure from industry standards. So even more egregiously, Lively leveraged her promotional commitments to pressure for the release of her cut. Her cut. Evidence of Baldoni's efforts to accommodate Lively's demands, including a series of text exchanges with editors who were later replaced by Lively in favor of her husband's editor, underscores the extreme lengths that Baldoni went to in order to preserve the film's integrity. The Times' willful omission of these critical details not only distorts the truth, but also perpetuates a false narrative that conveniently absolves Lively of her own culpability in the unraveling of professional relationships and the upheaval surrounding the film. Now, on the next page, there's some more text messages that Justin attaches as proofs. And these are really interesting because these are really interesting. So, and he's saying, hey, listen, these should have been reviewed by the Times. So he redacted the name. It says, Blake wants to know when you could be there next week. The editor says, I can fly on Sunday or Monday, up to you guys. Justin says, and would you prefer to be there or edit from home? And the editor says, I honestly don't have a preference. And so it begins. Justin says, we could push for you to stay home. It's up to you. Editor says, both have pros and cons. I want Blake to feel like she's getting what she wants so we can move on from this need of hers. Justin says, for the record, she's been getting what she wants this entire movie. The editor says, I understand. And Justin says, and she's getting to edit, which is what she wants. Let's remember that, LOL. Yes, and yet, true. I don't want to give her any opportunity to say, well, because blank was in LA, we could only work certain hours, so I need more time, and I didn't really set what I needed, or whatever it may be. Justin Baldoni says, point is, if you feel it's best and you want to go there, no problem at all. And also, if you would like to stay home, that's something that we can say. I just want you to do what's best for you. So they're basically saying that the editorial staff was trying to accommodate Blake and all of her needs and all of her wanting to have editorial control over this film. And then the next set of text messages states, they are showing it at Book Bonanza. The whole movie? And Justin says, yup, hers, meaning Blake's version. And the editor says, wow. Justin says, was supposed to be ours, and then I was uninvited. Whole thing is pretty cruel and intense. Un-effing believable. Ugh, sorry, Justin. I love you both. And then the editor says, I just hope that you love for at least stomach the cut that is going out into the world. Haven't seen it. Can't yet. And then Justin's complaint goes on to say, also missing from the New York Times article is Blake Lively's demand for an unearned producer credit and coveted PGA mark, a demand that Wayfarer and Baldoni were forced to concede to under duress, as documented internally. So they then have some internal communications on the next page where they're claiming that this supports their claim that Blake Lively coerced Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios into giving her an unearned producer's credit. So, wow, they're really going in. So, the next part of the complaint, Justin Baldoni states, moreover, the article fails to address the fact that Baldoni was systematically sidelined from the marketing of his own film. From the very beginning, Baldoni had insisted on marketing the film with a focus on domestic violence and its survivors, a message that was integral to the film's purpose. Yet Lively drastically limited his input and deliberately steered the promotional campaign away from its societal message. Further undermining Baldoni's role, Lively initially refused to permit his attendance at the film's premiere. Only after significant pressure did she reluctantly agree to allow Baldoni and the Wayfarer team to attend, but under humiliating conditions. The Wayfarer team and their families, including Baldoni and Heath, were segregated from the main cast, barred from the exclusive after-party, and forced to organize their own event at additional cost. Baldoni's participation on the red carpet was cut short, and his family and friends were confined to a makeshift holding area in the basement before being escorted into a separate theater after Lively's departure. Not only had Lively stolen the film, but she also robbed Baldoni and his team of any genuine opportunity to celebrate their hard work. So then they attached some additional messages. Jen Abel, remember, is the PR person, is one of the PR people that worked with Justin Baldoni. And she says, but nothing we can't get through this together. This film will be successful. She has already promoted heavily. So if she backs away now, it looks worse on her. And you just focus on the bigger picture of how this film is going to change the game for you in the studio. And Justin says, just find ways to keep me busy when she gets everyone together. Obviously, if the whole cast is making content together, that's her trying to clue people onto there being an issue. Everything she does is calculated, yet also manic. And then Justin says at the end of these messages, attempting to rewrite history, and like I'm not the one who developed this and spent 5 years trying to make it, and like there's an issue with me. It's just mean and hurtful, and she knows exactly what she's doing. And then the next page, Justin attaches some additional text messages where he says, infection in my spine, pretty serious. Great doctors and caught it early. Blank had a feeling. My body is done. Too much stress. We'll be in hospital probably until Tuesday now. Then IV antibiotics via a PIC line for 6 weeks, which means I can't travel. Regarding Garfield, so happy he liked it. And then the editor says, damn, then just take care of yourself. If Blake is so determined to handle the marketing on the movie, then just let her. Perfect time to look out for number 1. And then he texts a photo of himself in the hospital. He says, if you think about it, we didn't even finish our director's cut because she intervened. So ideally, at some point, we can take a week and all just do it together for ourselves. But that opens up a can of worms. So she will need to let this play out for a while before we pull that card. And your door will be knocked on. The amount of women who feel seen, that it's reaching people all over the world, that men are remembering their own traumas and having conversations with their partners. That's why we did this, and it worked. Still the dream team. Incredible. That's the best news. Exactly. The most important thing. So they're kind of sharing these like uplifting texts. They're trying to uplift each other and say, hey, we still have this baby that we created. And then there's some more text messages that Baldoni attaches to his complaint, where the editor here talking, he says, long story, but we won't be in the same room. I was asked to not even come to the premiere. So basically saying that Blake Lively has asked him to be segregated. And then he says, well, if you decide to change your mind last minute, let me know and let's figure it out together. I'm going to be there. That's just different timing and holding areas and theaters and all the things that you can imagine. It's still our film. And the editor says, it would be very hard for me to sit and watch the, quote, final film for the first time at the premiere. Just cheer for us when our names come up. Sending all love. And Justin says, okay, yeah, I haven't seen it either. Editor says, crazy times. So then at paragraph 30 of Justin Baldoni's complaint, he goes on to state that when Wayfarer and Baldoni hired Lively to appear in the film, they did not anticipate that she would execute a hostile takeover of the entire project. And think about it, friends. She does have a lot more money than them. She's married to Ryan Reynolds, who has so much money and power in Hollywood. She is in a position of power in a sense. And so then their complaint goes on to state that Lively's cynical abuse of sexual harassment allegations to assert unilateral control over every aspect of the production was both strategic and manipulative. Simultaneously, her public image suffered as a result of a series of high-profile blunders, which she tried to deflect by blaming Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios for the public's prying interest into the foibles of an A-list celebrity. This is nothing but an excuse. Fame is a double-edged sword, but Lively's tactics here are unconscionable. Alongside the New York Times, she orchestrated a malicious attack on the reputations, careers, and personal lives of plaintiffs, subjecting them to public humiliation, threats, and vitriol. This lawsuit seeks to hold the Times accountable for its role in this defamation campaign, but plaintiffs are not done. There are other bad actors involved, and make no mistake, this will not be the last lawsuit. So then they attach some additional messages and additional proofs on behalf of themselves. So then the complaint goes on to list and detail the parties, and Justin Baldoni names Wayfarer Studios, and it's his own company. Justin Baldoni, he's a California resident. Jamie Heath, who's involved with Wayfarer Studios. Steve Sarowitz. Melissa Nathan is the PR person. She owns the agency group PR LLC. Jennifer Abel is another PA person. She's affiliated with RWA Communications LLC. And it says plaintiff Jed Wallace is a resident of Texas. And then it goes on to name the defendant, New York Times, and then some Jane Doe and John Doe defendants who are unnamed individuals at this time. And then we'll get into the crux of the complaint, which is the allegations that Justin is making and the claims that he's bringing against the New York Times, and then jurisdiction and venue being proper. So he says the facts common to all causes of action. Lively uses unsubstantiated claims to bully Wayfarer and Baldoni in an effort to take over the film. In or about early 2019, Baldoni, through its literary agent, contacted the author of the book on which the film is based. He expressed a deep interest in adapting the book into a feature-length motion picture that aligned with his history of impactful storytelling. So then he goes on to express that after contacting the book owner, Baldoni envisioned a film that would shed light on the struggles of domestic violence survivors, amplify their voices, and inspire societal change. Given by his unwavering commitment, often at significant personal sacrifice, Baldoni ensured that the film stayed true to its vision, ultimately achieving its purpose. And then Baldoni states that on or about May 8, 2019, Wayfarer secured an option for the book's rights with the intent of creating a film that would bring critical attention to the widespread issue of intimate partner violence. Over the next 5 years of development, Baldoni and Wayfarer maintained a strong and collaborative relationship with the book's author. With the rights to the book secured and a plan to finance the project, Wayfarer continued to producing the film. Baldoni, whose passion and creative vision were central to the project, would direct and star in it. So then Wayfarer Studios, which is a smaller studio, they partnered with Sony, which, as you know, is huge, friends. They partnered with Sony to co-finance and distribute the film. And if you're getting value from the stream, I ask if you subscribe, support the channel. and subscribe for daily live streams on the celebrity legal battles. So that agreement included, at Wayfarer's and Baldoni's assistance, a requirement that 1% of the film's proceeds be donated to survivors of domestic violence. That 1% was ultimately earmarked for the organization No More, with which Baldoni had wanted to partner as early as September of 2022. On or about December 31st, 2022, Lively agreed to take on the lead role of Lily Bloom. As part of the subsequent negotiations, Lively was granted an executive producer credit, a title often associated with talent of her stature. Wayfarer did not request that Lively contribute to the film in any capacity beyond her performance and this credit. Lively takes over wardrobe. On or about May 15, 2023, principal photography of the film commenced in New Jersey. During pre-production, Lively began to assert control over aspects of the film beyond her role as an actor and outside the scope of her contractual entitlements. While lead actors are sometimes granted approval over the general look of their on-screen character, this authority typically does not include full control over wardrobe decisions without input from the director and producers. Nevertheless, Lively overstepped these boundaries, sidelining the production's costume designer, a seasoned professional with a long-standing working relationship with Lively. So they're claiming she's starting to try to take over things. So then, ignoring the director's vision for her character and disregarding the weeks spent by the entire team shopping and thoughtfully crafting her wardrobe in preparation for filming, Lively would send hundreds of images to the film's costume designer during all hours of the evening, pointing them in the direction of the appearance she wanted for her character. The costume designer then had to reshop her wardrobe, far exceeding the allocated budget and diverting time and resources. At one point, Lively insisted that her character had money and could afford $5,000 shoes, which had Baldoni rethinking the entire script that had been being worked on for well over a year and had been approved by both studios. Lively also several times refused to participate in wardrobe fittings at the production office, a mere 15 minutes away from Lively's Tribeca residence. Instead, she insisted the costume department pack up the wardrobe department and deliver all her wardrobe items to her. Loading the wardrobe department on trucks and delivering them to Lively's residence for fittings added both time to the production schedule and expense to the film. Two things productions work hard to avoid with careful planning. These demands were never mentioned at the contract negotiation phase and therefore were not included in the budget. Lively herself, having a further obligation to the studios as an executive producer, paid no mind to the budget and the months of planning that had already occurred. Even if Lively had the contractual authority to approve her character's wardrobe, which she did not, a grant of such authority would not and could not imply the right to blow up the film's budget with additional unanticipated costs. In an effort to maintain harmony at the start of her working relationship and to avoid further delays caused by wardrobe conflicts, Baldoni and the studio reluctantly allowed Lively full control over her wardrobe. This concession quickly proved regrettable. On the first day of principal photography, paparazzi captured published photos of Lively in character wearing her self-selected wardrobe. These images were described as unflattering and sparked a backlash from the film's distributor, Sony. Baldoni received direct criticism from Sony, who voiced concerns about the impact of the photos on the film's public perception. So Baldoni is saying, I got lots of backlash because of how Blake Lively chose to handle this. So then Baldoni's complaint goes on to state, following these events, Baldoni approached Lively in her trailer to discuss necessary wardrobe adjustments. The conversation, while professional, took considerable time and was later grossly misrepresented in Lively's California Civil Rights Department complaint, falsely characterizing the exchange as a lengthy outburst that delayed filming and caused the crew to wait for hours while Baldoni cried in Lively's dressing room. This account, later published by the Times, is false. Although Baldoni did briefly tear up during the conversation, it was in response to what he believed was a genuine compliment from Lively, praising his work as a director and actor. In hindsight, Baldoni recognized this as a manipulation tactic, likely intended to persuade him to continue allowing her unchecked control over wardrobe decisions. Lively later leveraged this conversation in support of her allegations of harassment, alleging that Baldoni made inappropriate comments on her appearance. In reality, Baldoni was relaying the distributor's concerns and the widespread social media criticism regarding the wardrobe's failure to meet audience expectations, a sentiment that Baldoni shared. This incident marked the beginning of a troubling pattern of manipulative behavior by Lively. Lively begins rewriting the script. So during a red carpet interview at the New York City celebrity premiere of the film, Lively stated the iconic rooftop scene, "My husband actually wrote it. Nobody knows that, but you now." This revelation came as a surprise to the film's credited screenwriter, who, when later interviewed, graciously responded, "So if I'm being told that Ryan wrote that, then great, how wonderful." The screenwriter further acknowledged, "There were a few little flourishes that I did not write. And if those flourishes came from Ryan, I think that's wonderful." This was also the first time plaintiffs learned that Ryan Reynolds, her husband, who had no formal role in the film's production, made unauthorized changes to the script in secret. Furthermore, Lively herself began altering the script daily. The frequency of Lively's revisions alarmed the producers, director, and studio, who anticipated that her interference would persist every day of the shoot and disrupt the production schedule. So this is really interesting. They're kind of claiming that Ryan Reynolds was using his power and making unauthorized changes to the script. So next, then Justin Baldoni's complaint goes on to state that each shooting day was already intricately planned, and her constant changes introduced significant stress on the production crew and financial strain. However, just weeks prior, Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, had aggressively berated Baldoni during a meeting at their penthouse in New York, accusing him of, quote, "fat shaming Lively." Baldoni, in an effort to avoid further confrontation with Lively and Reynolds and rebuild rapport with his co-star, continued to bend to her will. Reynolds and Lively's inappropriate and humiliating berating of Baldoni, delivered perhaps intentionally as other celebrity friends were coming in and out of their penthouse, was prompted by Baldoni's reasonable inquiry into crucial information needed to ensure safety and avoid injury in a scene. Baldoni, while training for a physically demanding scene in which his character Raoul would lift Lily, asked his trainer, who was introduced to him by Lively and oversaw his training for the film, how much Lively weighed. Baldoni, who suffers from back issues and has multiple bulging discs, made the inquiry to ensure he could safely perform the lift without injury. Unfortunately, the trainer relayed this information to Lively, who then informed Reynolds. The confrontation that followed was so aggressive that Baldoni felt compelled to offer repeated apologies, despite his question being entirely reasonable and made in good faith. Following this incident, Lively refused to perform the lift scene, even though it had already been rehearsed with a stunt double. In fact, Lively threatened to quit the production altogether, despite her contractual obligations. Lively gave Baldoni an ultimatum to either cast someone else or work with her in the way she works. It was her way or the highway. Recasting would be detrimental to production, sever Wayfarer's relationship with Sony, and cost millions. To highlight the effects of masterful gaslighting, Baldoni and Wayfarer also truly believed that in an effort to save herself from the backlash of being recast, Lively could leak that she felt fat-shamed by Baldoni, which he thought would ruin his career. Notably, it appears he was not wrong, and despite his efforts to do everything her way, she still tried continues to try and arguably did, with the help of the New York Times, ruin his career, reputation, and well-being. Beyond the script revisions, Lively extended her influence over the film to other areas, frequently challenging decisions and asserting control. She not only rewrote her own dialogue, but also made unilateral changes to other characters' lines, effectively altering the script on a broad scale. So they're basically saying that this is a pattern of behavior. She's slowly but surely taking over all aspects of the film. So then the complaint goes on to say, this pattern of interference continued to disrupt the production process, often causing stress, chaos, and delays. So over the months leading up to the film's release, Lively and her collaborators consistently scrutinized interactions with Baldoni and employed tactics that fall squarely within the definition of gaslighting. This behavior pressured Sony, Baldoni, and Wayfarer into ceding control to Lively at every turn, resulting in her domination of nearly every aspect of the film's production. Lively sets the stage for coercion by drafting a, quote, protection letter that intentionally misrepresents the nature of the conversations had between Baldoni and or Heath, and Lively demands the Wayfarer parties sign for Lively to return to work after the industry strikes. So principal photography began on May 15, 2024. From mid-June to early November 2023, production was suspended due to the industry guild strikes. When the strikes ended on November 9, 2023, production was eager to resume filming and make up for lost time. That same day, however, Wayfarer received an unsettling and unexpected email from Lively through her counsel containing a 17-point list of non-negotiable conditions that must be met before Lively would return to work. Though Lively disagreed as to the basis for Wayfarer disagreed as to the basis for requesting these conditions, which insinuated those demands were the result of inappropriate behavior by Baldoni and Heath, the terms were agreeable and some were already in place. For example, Lively demanded that an intimacy coordinator be present at all times when Lively was on set. In fact, an intimacy coordinator had already been engaged during the first half of production, so Wayfarer took no issue with this request. Contrary to Lively's assertions, it was she who refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator to plan out scenes, putting Baldoni in the awkward position of meeting with the intimacy coordinator alone and later relaying sex scene suggestions to Lively in the intimacy coordinator's absence, not only defeating the purpose, but resulting in accusation by the Times that before shooting began, Baldoni wanted to add sex scenes that Lively considered gratuitous. In fact, these scenes were proposed by the intimacy coordinator. This is well documented in handwritten notes Baldoni took during meetings with the intimacy coordinator. Well, it's not. Well, listen, those handwritten notes doesn't prove it. Really, we want to hear from the intimacy coordinator, him or herself, as to what were those scenes the idea of the intimacy coordinator, or were they Justin Baldoni's idea? Because frankly, just the only text messages that we've seen in this complaint where they were talking about the intimacy coordinator, Blake Lively did say she didn't refuse to meet with the intimacy coordinator. She just said, I'm okay. I don't need to meet with the intimacy coordinator before we start shooting or before we start working on the film. I can go ahead and meet her once we start. Meet the intimacy coordinator once we start. So that is substantively different than what Justin is claiming in this complaint. He's kind of insinuating, he's actually saying that she refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator. He's insinuating that was on multiple occasions, and he's alleging that there required him to have to relay the notes of the intimacy coordinator to Blake Lively directly. I'm not sold on that. I'm not convinced because the text messages did not go that far. It doesn't prove what he's saying. So then there's some additional texts here that he attaches to his complaint. And Justin says, these are the same ones where she says, I feel good. I can meet with her when we start. So she is agreeing to meet with the intimacy coordinator. So I don't think these text messages are helpful to him. So then the complaint says Baldoni's dated handwritten notes from his meetings with the intimacy coordinator, which again Lively declined attending, were read to Lively at her penthouse, where she insisted she and Baldoni meet to write sex scenes together. As it was, the sex scenes were not written, And it was always Baldoni's intention for them to be written with input from both the intimacy coordinator and Lively. The female gaze that Lively distorts in her Civil Rights Department complaint, which the Times then publishes, in response to a proposal from the intimacy coordinator that Ryle not orgasm after he satisfied Lily, Lively remarked, "I'd be mortified if that happened to me." To which Baldoni, following Lively's lead in what seemed like an attempt to connect and develop their characters, remarked that those have been some of the most beautiful moments with my wife and I. Lively again distorts this both in the protections for return to production she made Wayfarer, Heath, and Baldoni sign, and in a CRD complaint, which the Times publishes as fact without any investigation whatsoever. First, this suggestion did not originate with Baldoni, and Lively knew this. Second, it was Lively who first personalized the scenes. So he's claiming that, look, she started talking about, oh, I would be mortified if this happened to me. And he said, oh, I was just following her lead. And third, and perhaps most importantly, they were writing scenes for their characters. Lively claims that Baldoni made her feel unsafe when he used the word sexy while discussing a wardrobe adjustment, when in fact, Lively herself had previously indicated both verbally and in a text message shown below that she wanted her character's wardrobe to be sexier. For a scene in which all the characters wore onesies, Lively opted to wear a large coat over hers, obscuring the outfit. Baldoni, as the film's director, suggested she remove the coat, explaining that explaining that the look would be sexier without it. Lively took offense to the comment and appeared upset, interpreting it negatively rather than as creative direction. Feeling he had upset her, Baldoni apologized, despite having made a professional suggestion as director. Notably, in a separate text exchange, Lively herself used the word sexy to describe one of her character's outfits while advocating for her own wardrobe choice, an inconsistency that undermines the basis of her complaint. And then Baldoni goes on to include some additional text messages. He says, support these points. He said, hey, look, she's talking about her character is sexy, wanting her character to be sexy. But I'm going to tell you this. As an attorney, and this is not legal advice, but listen, you have to be mindful. When you are the director, and this is your actress, and you own the production company, you have to be mindful of your words and how you speak to her. And even if she uses the word sexy to describe herself or her character, regardless of whether you think it's fair or not, as a male director, female actress, you need to be cognizant of the words that you use, and things can be taken out of context. So bottom line, moving on, in this complaint, Justin Baldoni then says, Lively established what language is acceptable to her and what is not at the very outset of the relationship, just 2 days into filming. To use this language herself, then in turn make a note of each instance when her director used the same language, also to describe wardrobe and character, is at least a double standard. To generate a list of demands that insinuate he and his business partner acted inappropriate and refused to work unless they agree not to do it again is calculating and even extortionistic. But to then use Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath's agreement to not do something they already did do, were not doing and had no intention of doing, as the basis to file a non-public California Civil Rights Department complaint against them and release it to the public herself in order to ruin their reputations, is defamation. The Times was directly complicit in this because the California Civil Rights Department complaints are non-public. They're claiming that Blake Lively leaked it to the public because it did become public. It got out there, okay? So next, then at the next page of her complaint, there's some additional text messages where, and then they assert Lively, Lively also established very early that it was acceptable to be present while Lively was breastfeeding. Because they did include the text message before where Lively had invited Justin to her trailer to rehearse the lines when she was breastfeeding. So then they go on to state in the complaint, both Heath and Baldoni have children and are comfortable around breastfeeding mothers, and Lively seemed equally comfortable. In fact, Baldoni's wife co-founded a company that makes a breastfeeding garment, a prototype that originated with his mother when he was a baby. And as revealed in a text message exchange between Baldoni and Lively less than 2 weeks into filming, Lively invited Baldoni to her trailer to rehearse lines while she was pumping breast milk. Lively now alleges in the CRD complaint that Baldoni and or Heath would enter her makeup trailer of their own volition while she was breastfeeding. Notably, breastfeeding was an activity she often conducted openly in the presence of both Baldoni and Heath, including during production meetings. So what do you think, friends? Let me know. Let me know, friends. So guys, let me know. What do you guys think? Is it appropriate? Even if she invites him, do you think it kind of opens the door to put Baldoni in a compromising position? Let me know. I can see that reasonable minds could differ on that. So next, in the California Civil Rights Department complaint, published in part by the Times, Lively suggests Heath walked in her trailer unannounced while in state of undress and topless, which is false. Heath was invited into her trailer along with a female producer, Baldoni, and a Sony representative for a meeting requested by Lively. Mr. Heath arrived first to see if Lively was ready for the meeting, and after knocking and being invited in, saw that Lively was breastfeeding. She was not topless. She was having makeup removed from her collarbone while fully covered. So that's his allegation. So then the next part of his complaint says, Heath asked if they should return at a later time. Lively said no. They could move forward with the meeting as initially planned and would meet them after she finished removing makeup. Roughly 2 weeks later, Lively announced that she thought she had seen Heath make eye contact with her. Heath immediately apologized and said that he hadn't even realized he looked her way, in response to which Lively remarked, "I know you weren't trying to cop a look." A reference to this incident conveniently showed up on a document months later, distorted like the others and out of context in a list that the Times later published as fact. By the time Wayfarer received the quote protections for return to production document, Wayfarer had invested millions of dollars, completed half the film with Lively as the lead, and incurred substantial costs in preparation to resume production immediately following the strikes. However, instead of returning to work as anticipated, they received Lively's list of demands. In the spirit of ensuring Lively felt comfortable on set, Wayfarer promptly agreed to her terms, despite disagreeing with the insinuations underlying them. Neither Wayfarer, Heath, nor Baldoni had engaged in any of the behavior alluded to it in the return to production document, nor did they plan to. They thought that was the end of it, and they were ready to move ahead and make a great film. It was agreed that filming would resume on January 5th, 2024. On the evening of January 4th, 2024, Baldoni, Heath, and producers Todd Black and Alex Sachs, a representative of Sony, and the film's first AD, were invited to Lively and Reynolds' penthouse in New York City. They arrived eager to discuss plans for the next day's filming, prepared with their production materials. Instead, they were blindsided by Lively and Ryan Reynolds, who presented a list of grievances that were both unanticipated and troubling. Reynolds launched into a tirade berating Baldoni in what Baldoni later described as a traumatic encounter, stating he had never been spoken to like that in his life. Oh my gosh. I would have loved to be a fly on that wall, friends, to see Ryan Reynolds go off on Justin Baldoni. So then Justin says that Reynolds demanded an apology to Lively for actions that were mischaracterized and demonstrably false. See below. When Baldoni resisted apologizing for what he had done, Reynolds became further enraged. And it's hard to envision Reynolds being further enraged, right? So But anyway, when Baldoni resisted apologizing for what he had done, Reynolds became further enraged, according to Baldoni. Everyone, including the producer, Lively, had asked production to engage, and the representative of Sony that was in attendance left that meeting in shock. The producer offered that in his 40-year career, he had never seen anyone speak to someone like that in a meeting. The Sony representative mentioned that she would often think of that meeting, and her one regret is that she didn't stop Reynolds' berating of Baldoni. On the very first page of her California Civil Rights Department complaint, Lively inaccurately claims that a list of 30 items was agreed upon during this meeting. This assertion is categorically false. The 30-point list is strategically positioned to appear as if it were a standalone written document. However, no such document was ever presented to Baldoni, the Wayfarer team, or to their knowledge, anyone else, whether during that meeting or at any other time, and therefore could not have been agreed to. In reality, many of these items were encountered for the first time in the Civil Rights Department complaint itself and include references to highly disturbing events that never occurred. The repeated use of the phrase "no more" before each demand falsely suggests that these alleged incidents had previously taken place and needed to cease. This implication is not only misleading, but entirely untrue. Baldoni and Heath left the meeting deeply unsettled by the implications of Lively and Reynolds' behavior and the power dynamics at play. Faced with mounting pressure and weighing the financial implications of what shutting down a film halfway through production would mean, Wayfarer made the difficult decision to resume production and finish the film, despite fears that Lively was intentionally manipulating facts for her own gain. The stakes were extraordinarily high. Financiers had invested substantial resources. Hundreds of cast and crew members had endured months without work due to the strikes, and nearly 5 years of development had gone into bringing this film to life. Filming resumed without further grievances or references to prior disputes from Lively, a fact that Lively concedes in her Civil Rights Department complaint. The parties agreed to implement and follow the protections for return to production to ensure that the film could be completed, marketed, and released safely and successfully, and it was. Production of the film resumed on January 5th and concluded on February 9th, 2024. The film has been a resounding success. So Justin Baldoni is saying, look, we were coerced. Our hands were forced by Ryan Reynolds and Lively in this power struggle. We had so many people invested millions of dollars into this film. She was threatening not to come back to work. We had already shot half the film with her as the lead. So he's saying they were under extreme amount of duress. So next, he says, however, so the film has been a resounding success. However, the lasting effects of Lively's allegations left Baldoni uneasy. He and Wayfarer continued to make considerable concessions throughout production, all in the interest of successfully delivering an outstanding film. And fans, I ask if you could hit the subscribe button if you're getting value from the stream, because we do cover daily celebrity lawsuits with the full legal pleadings, and we go through everything in detail on this channel every day. Lively takes over editing, fires the film's editor and composer, and creates her own version of the film at Wayfarer's expense, while the rightful director continues to edit his cut of the film. So then they're talking about this power struggle. They say the Directors Guild of America mandates a 10-week protected period during which the director of a feature film is entitled to privately edit the film and assemble their director's cut. So this period is considered sacred, and it provides the director with uninterrupted time to creatively shape the final product, an opportunity to experiment, take risks, and refine until the film fully reflects their artistic vision. For Baldoni, this period represents the pinnacle of the filmmaking process, a time to immerse himself in the creative craft, free from external influences. Unfortunately, he was denied this essential experience. Lively requested to join Baldoni in the editing bay. As a seasoned professional with over 20 years of experience in the entertainment industry and having grown up in a family deeply involved in the field, Lively was fully aware of the implications of her request. In fact, her request explicitly acknowledged that it infringed upon Baldoni's protected period. Nonetheless, in the aftermath of the serious false allegations she had leveled against the production, Baldoni, Wayfarer, and Sony reluctantly agreed to grant her access to the editing bay for 2 days. Notably, despite her allegations that Baldoni made her uncomfortable, Lively sought to spend prolonged, close time with him in the confined and collaborative space of the editing bay. What began as a 2-day collaboration extended into 10 days, during which Lively sought to work alone in the editing bay without Baldoni. Despite Baldoni incorporating 7 pages of her notes into his own edit at the very onset and consistently keeping her involved in every subsequent edit, Lively expressed dissatisfaction with mere collaboration, asserting that she too deserved the opportunity to see her creative vision realized. She requested extensive time with the editors. Oh, this is a very interesting different side of the story. So in response, Wayfarer flew Baldoni's editor to New York to assist Lively in the process. Eventually, Lively fired the film's editors, replacing them with her own choice, specifically an editor often used by Ryan Reynolds, her husband. She also fired the film's award-winning composer, replacing him with composers from Ryan Reynolds' recent project. Against repeated objections, Lively created her own cut of the film at Wayfarer Sony's expense. Sony later informed Wayfarer that Lively would not promote the film unless her demands were met. Believing that Lively's edits would simply supplement Baldoni's work, Baldoni continued refining his director's cut. However, faced with the possibility of Lively refusing to promote the film or approve any related marketing material, such as trailers, posters, and social media posts, a scenario that would have catastrophic implications, Wayfarer and Baldoni felt compelled to acquiesce. This included funding a friends and family screening of a version of the film that they had not approved or even seen, entirely at Lively's insistence. Having already invested millions of dollars along with years of time, energy, and personal sacrifice, Wayfarer and Baldoni were left with no viable alternatives. Wayfarer and Sony found themselves in an unprecedented and uncomfortable predicament. 2 competing versions of the film, created by 2 different individuals, one of whom has no contractual or creative right to edit the film, let alone produce her own cut. Faced with Lively's threat to withhold promotion of the film, the studio reluctantly agreed to do an official audience test of both versions, Lively's cut and Baldoni's director cut, once again at Wayfarer's and Sony's expense. This decision was made with the understanding that Lively had agreed with Sony that if Baldoni's director's cut tested higher, she would drop the matter and fully cooperate, and Baldoni could proceed finishing the film without Lively's editorial interferences. Unsurprisingly, despite Baldoni's cut scoring significantly higher with audiences and the film's target demographic, Lively reneged on her promise. She insisted that her cut be the version released to the public, even going so far as to claim that the author of the book would also refuse to promote the film if Lively's version was not chosen. Under immense pressure, Sony and Wayfarer once again conceded. Lively demanded a producer credit and an undeserved PGA mark. So we did talk about this earlier, that they're claiming that she then got an additional credit that was not deserved. And they're really going through bit by bit here, talking about how she allegedly was very obstructive to the film and pretty much took over at the expense of the studios. So then they go on to state, Justin Baldoni then goes on to state, Lively's successful bullying tactics result in Baldoni's exile from his own film. And we've seen some text message about this, how he's talking with the editors about how he can't even show up at certain events or like BookCon or show up, if she's there. And so then his complaint goes on to state that Baldoni is forced to hire crisis public relations to combat Lively's negative press push. And he's claiming, hey, look, I hired these PR people not to go after Blake, but to try to rehabilitate all the damage that Blake is doing to me. So then we have these text messages again, and we've read through earlier in this stream the different text messages between the PR people who are working with Justin, and then also Leslie Sloan, who is Blake Lively's PR person. So he attaches more additional text messages, proofs of his assertions that he claims will support his narrative. And then the complaint says, in spite of Leslie Sloan's efforts, and Leslie Sloan is Blake Lively's publicist, to lambast Baldoni and Nathan. Melissa Nathan is Baldoni's publicist. It was Blake Lively who ultimately stirred up her own public ridicule. So again, they're claiming that, hey, she said things that were unsavory when she was promoting this film. She allegedly wasn't taking domestic violence seriously. She was saying, wear your florals, grab your girlfriends and come watch the film. She was promoting her hair care line. She was promoting her alcohol brand. And 55% of domestic violence incidents occur concurrent with alcohol. So they're saying that the things that Blake Lively did that got her organic negative press, they're saying that she brought it on herself and it was not due to their alleged activities. Whereas Blake is saying that they engaged in a smear campaign against her. So they attach more proofs. We have gone through some of these text messages previously. It looks like some of these are addressing the same issues that Baldoni talked about in the introductory paragraphs of his complaint. And then I want to really get to the crux of this complaint, which is the allegations and the causes of action. So then Justin's complaint goes on to state at paragraph 107, I want to make sure you guys can see this. At paragraph 105, Justin then goes on to state, excuse me, paragraph 106. He says, worse still, there are documented communications overlooked by Lively in the Times that expressly refute Lively's erroneous accusations. And then he gives some by way of examples. Okay. Here we go. He gives some by way of examples. And then at paragraph 107, he states, though the Times admits it had access to thousands of relevant text messages and emails, its skewed reporting makes painfully obvious that it failed to substantiate the false accusations hurled by Lively. Indeed, the objective evidence refutes any allegation that plaintiffs engaged in a smear campaign to bury Lively and destroy her reputation. Lively's wound was entirely self-inflicted. That plaintiffs retained crisis public relations to defend against Lively's unrelenting assault does not change this fact. And then they go on to state that Stephanie Jones, which is Justin Baldoni's prior PR person, discloses confidential communications. So he says, listen, Stephanie Jones is my prior PR person. She was privy to confidential communications and strategy, and she leaked this information to Blake Lively. So then we go through the causes of action that he is filing against Blake. I'm sorry, not against Blake, that he's filing against the New York Times. And Justin Baldoni is suing the New York Times for libel. He is also suing them. We're going to go to the next cause of action for false light. He's suing them for false light and invasion of privacy. And again, I talked about how you can be guilty of false light even if the statements that you publish are true, if the context is misleading or presents you in a misleading or out of context light. And then he also asserts a cause of action for breach of implied in fact contract, breach of implied in fact contract, also promissory fraud. And this is the relief that Justin Baldoni is requesting that the court award him against New York Times. He asks for a judgment to be entered against New York Times for general and special damages in an amount according to proof, for all statutory penalties authorized by law, for punitive and exemplary damages in an amount sufficient to punish the defendants for the wrongful conduct alleged herein and to deter such conduct in the future, for liquidated damages, costs of suit, attorney's fees, and prejudgment interest. So this is then signed off by Brian Friedman. And as you know, Brian Friedman also represents Rachel Leviss in the Vanderpump Rules lawsuit that Rachel filed against Ariana Madix and Tom Sandoval. He also has represented individuals in the Bachelor franchise, reality TV stars. So Brian Friedman is a well sought after attorney. He files a lot of different complaints in California State Superior Court, County of Los Angeles, on behalf of celebrities or different very public figures. So guys, I just wanted to let you know, on our next stream, we will be covering this complaint that Blake Lively has brought against Wayfarer Studios and Justin Baldoni, and also Stephanie Jones, the lawsuit that she has filed against Justin Baldoni. She's his prior PR person, and he's accusing her of having leaked information to Blake Lively. So friends, I ask that you subscribe to the channel. It really helps grow our young channel. We come to you live every day with live streams on celebrity legal news. I have all of the legal pleadings here for you of the real filings of public figures and celebrities. We're covering Vanderpump Rules litigation. We're covering the Sean Diddy Combs and the Jay-Z Tony Busby litigation that has just swept the nation. We're continuing to cover with daily live streams on the Blake Lively v. Justin Baldoni cases. We're covering the Angelina Jolie Brad Pitt litigation that continues over their winery, Chateau Miraval. So friends, go ahead and hit the subscribe button to help grow our channel. We've already reached over 50,000 views in our first month of being on the air here, and we couldn't have done it without you. We appreciate all of your thoughtful comments. I reply to each of your comments to the best of my ability. You guys have had some awesome, amazing back and forth discussions. We love hearing opinions and thoughts on both sides of the aisle. We don't take sides here. We're neutral. We report the news. We give legal commentary, and we really appreciate all of your guys' comments. So we look forward to seeing you again on our live stream tomorrow. Thank you so much, friends, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening.